He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This one's wife. Narcissist in New York. Hello. I'm H.G. Tudor. New York is a fantastic city. Much to see, vibrant, a real melting pot of cultures. One of the aspects of it that I like as well is that the natives allow people who are well known, famous, just to go about their business. They're not fazed by the fact that all of a sudden they'll see somebody famous walking along the street. They don't make a fuss about it, which amuses me when it comes to somebody like this one's wife, who, because of her basic behaviour and her mid-range narcissism, causes her to expect that people will go, "Oh my God, it's this one's wife," and come flocking to her. Most New Yorkers wouldn't give a rat's ass. They've got their own things to be getting on with. And because they're used to seeing famous people amongst their midst, they don't make a big thing about it. I've always rather liked that about New Yorkers. Anyway, this one's wife is in New York, or has just been there, as we know, as a consequence of her creepy behaviour hanging out with people who are much younger than her. Yet she can't resist once again going to Instagram. I suspect it's almost going to be a daily occurrence that I'll be telling you that here's another thing that she's placed on Instagram, all in keeping with my prediction that I made once she started posting at the beginning of January. It's another Instagram story. Be under no illusion that the narcissist, like this one's wife, a mid-range narcissist who is somatic, therefore is preoccupied with her appearance, is preoccupied with material things, preoccupied with money, revels in the use of social media because it gives her that subconscious ability to control. She thinks that she's engaging with her followers, that people want to know what she's doing, that everything that she does is important enough to be shared. She is famous, but what she invariably does is not actually that interesting, other than to provide a basis for ridicule, rolling your eyes at her pathetic behaviour, or in my case, providing me with a mass of material that I can then dissect and analyse to explain to you why she's doing what she's doing and help you understand more about her narcissism in action. I think I'm going to experience a saturation point in relation to her in due course. But until that happens, let's have a look at the first part of the story that she posted on her Instagram account. Remember, this narcissist, like any other narcissist, is utilising social media in order to control the audience, to draw fuel from them by way of their reactions, and in her case, to manage her facade and potentially gain the residual benefit of monetisation in some shape or form. This is what she first posted. Thus, the first part is a very short clip showing a beige woman in beige clothes walking down a beige corridor. And there's also a man in front of her with beige trousers on. Beige overload. It's captioned, "Film something fun while in the city today." This is part of her grandiosity, bragging about what she's doing. It isn't the case that she's simply telling us. Remember, she's a narcissist. So she's utilising what she's doing without telling you precisely what she was doing in order to try and get people interested in her, because their interest demonstrates that they are under control and provides her with fuel. Once again, she demonstrates that she behaves like the teenager that she actually is, for she cannot help herself but walk along, having asked somebody, "Film me walking along a corridor." I mean, seriously. You can't denote anything from that corridor. And unless I'm very much mistaken, that's not some corridor that you would automatically think, I know where she is. She could be anywhere. And yet, this vacuous woman tells somebody, film me while I walk along this corridor. And then, because I know I'm being filmed, I'll look over my shoulder and give a stupid little laugh. She is cretinous. She really is. Thus, that's what she starts with. And then it moves on to a highlight that has come from when she attended the early viewing of her shitty series, where a number of young ladies turned up. And you can see from what I have shown you on the screen that she's had an exchange in relation to Emily. Apparently, Emily has been a long-time follower of her page. They've been in contact since 2011, but met for the first time in 2016. Well, good for Emily. I'm sure she's thoroughly delighted, and she shares the exchange of the messages that have taken place. This, of course, is facade management. Look, I'm not a bully. I'm a lovely person. Here's one of my long-standing fans, thrilled to meet me. This is triangulation. She's triangulating her audience with Emily. I've no idea who Emily is, and I don't care to find out. But the point is, yet again, there she is, fraternising with these particular fans. I wonder how the Sussex squad feel about that. That once again, they're ignored as she chooses the people that really matter to her. We get a picture of them in relation to the Netflix funereal banner, the wilting flowers and the oranges. I guess they were going cheap and they just needed to use them for something. And then up next, we get a glimpse of some of the produce. It would appear that this one's wife is flogging. There is, on the As Ever site, the hint of some products that you will presumably be hustled into suggesting that you buy them. Nothing is available just yet, and as I pointed out, that this utter clown of business failed to ensure that when the series drops, you can actually buy something, because she's useless. I'll be talking more about these products in a separate video, because I have some different observations to provide about them. But there's a further clip which shows, yes, some fruit, some foliage, what looks like an egg box, and the keepsake box for raspberry spread. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but why the fuck would you want a keepsake box for something that's perishable? You'll use the spread, it's gone. What are you going to do? Keep an empty jam jar in it? Just excessive packaging, probably in an attempt to justify a ridiculous and extortionate price. Why would you want a keepsake thing for a jar of raspberry spread? You wouldn't. But this is the ridiculous world that this one's wife occupies. You'll also notice that this keepsake box is beige, just like her. But she's triangulating this time with an object. So she triangulated with people. Now she's triangulated with an object. Both of them manipulations, because remember, when she's interacting with human beings, she's always interacting. I beg your pardon, she's always manipulating. She doesn't realise she's doing it, but she is. Why? Because she's a narcissist. That's what narcissists do. And here, she's giving you a preview of the keepsake box with the stupid as ever and the stolen logo and what looks like to be a box of eggs. Do they come from the rescue chickens? Poor bastards. They're no longer going to be rescue chickens. They're going to be battery hens forced to pump out eggs for the evil empire that this one's wife wants to create. But there's more. Let's have a look at what else appeared on her story. Yes, as you've seen, the next image is of an elderly lady that has been captured by a deranged beige woman. The poor lady was once a prominent feminist and has now been reduced to a shell of her former self as a consequence of a leeching opportunist that has attached herself to her. Once vibrant and full of ideas, this lady, known as Gloria Steinem, has found the life steadily leached from her. Look at her now, staring into the camera, wishing that the limpet that's attached to her would let go of her. She's begging you. Her eyes are pleading, release me from this torture, free me from this hell, and she smells strange. Yes, this one's wife is back to dealing with Gloria Steinem. She has taken her off the shelf because Steinem is a non-intimate secondary source in the fuel matrix of this one's wife, which means that she's subjected to the shelf dynamic. Accordingly, she comes up on this one's wife's radar. This one's wife's narcissism deems to take her off the shelf with a meeting. And naturally, this one's wife, not respecting the fact that Gloria Steinem probably just wants her to go away and leave her alone, then has to stick it on Instagram to tell everybody, oh look, here I am having a quick hug with Gloria Steinem because I'm a hugger and I'm a nice person. What happened to you marching on Washington together? You didn't do it because, as ever, you future fake. And here you're just using Gloria Steinem to make it look like you are a feminist and to make it look like you're a friendly and caring person. You're none of those things. We see completely through you. Nevertheless, this one's wife, dressed in beige, gets hold of Gloria Steinem, probably against her will, and utilizes her like a prop. You then get the footage showing this one's wife's shitty show on one of the screens at Times Square. Yes, you'll notice nobody's looking up and going, wow, that looks exciting. There's nobody stopped to go, excuse me, are you the Duchess of Sussex? No. As I mentioned earlier on in the video, even if, assuming they'd recognise her, nobody would want to bother talking to her, which of course would really miff this one's wife because she wants people to stop and going, Meghan, it's you. And of course, she would do her silly behind-the-hand laugh and leap up and down like the idiotic schoolgirl that she behaves like. But here, she has to pause and film herself. What a narcissist, to then show the world. This demonstrates what a low-grade type of narcissist that she is. I don't recall the social media of other individuals who are famous, ones with far more talent and fame than this one's wife, stopping, saying, oh look, there's me up on a billboard or a screen. I know, I'll film it and stick it on my socials. But this one's wife does, because she's basic. And her narcissism details her, or rather drives her, to film herself and then put it on Instagram to say, look at me, I'm famous, I'm in Times Square. You've been famous for a long time, purely as a consequence of the Ginger Prince that you ensnared, but it's undeniable. She is famous. And yet, the basic nature of the way that her narcissism functions causes her to engage in behavior like this by making her film herself and then sticking it on her Instagram. Pathetic. The Instagram story then rounds out with basically some more clips from her stupid show. You've suffered enough in relation to that, so I've not bothered to include that section. It basically shows various unimaginative guests going, gosh, that's great, with a caption, for more recipes, fun and reasons to, check out the show, which in just 24 hours is already in the top 10. Thank you to all of you around the world who are tuning in. I don't know whether that statement is correct, and I don't know where it is in the top 10, whether it is in the top 10 in the United States, perhaps it's in the top 10 in a niche category of top 10 shitty beige cookery shows, and therefore it quite rightly ought to be in that top 10. Indeed, it ought to be number 1. Or whether it's in the top 10 of new releases or top 10 of shows generally being watched, it's unclear. It's a little bit like how when she was supposedly in the top 10 or whatever it was for her rubbish book, that was nothing to do with it being a bestseller. It was all to do with it was in a very niche category. It's a little bit like on Amazon. Somebody could be like number 1 in books about Himalayan psychiatrists, which, as you could imagine, isn't a particularly wide field. One suspects it might be something like that. Naturally, this one's wife has to boast, pretending that she cares about people by thanking them for it. I suspect that many of the people that said they weren't going to watch it have watched it out of grudge watching, and it'll soon plummet as they realise, gosh, this is deadly dull. I mean, after all, not only have I earlier read you the audience reviews and also some of the media reviews, but also bear in mind, without exception, the British media reviews have slated it. Many of the American ones have criticised it as well, or at best have been neutral about it. You cannot say that it's been a success. And for so many outlets to form similar views of this programme doesn't show that it's a concerted campaign to bring her down. It shows this. It's an awful, boring series. If all of those people form that view that at best they talk about it in relatively neutral terms, and many do not, that just demonstrates what a shit series it actually is. But she, of course, has to boast and show some clips of people going, gosh, that's great, etc., because it's all about making her look good, as is everything that she does, because she's a narcissist. Thus, the narcissist is in New York and shows the banality of her life as she fluezes around New York, automatically placing it on her Insta, and then allowing me another opportunity to not only take the piss out of her, but demonstrate the various facets of her narcissism. Once again, the narcissist goes somewhere, note, no children in tow, and once again she has to go to social media to broadcast it all. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for watching.